Hey everyone, David here with a new tech review in which I'm going to be covering the LOGITECH G433. No, I am not trying to pitch you a red tambourine as much as it looks like it. That's because Logitech decided to throw in a carrying case with this headset, as I covered in my unboxing video. If you have not checked that out, feel free to do so. I cover all the accessories and everything that comes included in the box prior to its review. But now that that's been uploaded, now it's time to tackle the actual headset and see what it's all about, and exactly decide whether or not this headset is worth your money. Now, after having used these for about a week or so, I can honestly say that these are some bomb headphones, but they do have their little caveats from time to time, but they're not exactly anything to really pull away from being a very decent pair of headphones. I just think that maybe for the price, they could have thrown in a couple of things to make the deal even sweeter. For the time being, I can honestly say that the sound is pretty much on par with those of the G430, where you are dealing with surround sound for the majority of the devices that you're listening from, and it does a good job at balancing out the right amount of bass, treble, and keeping it crisp and clear, and never really drowning out your headphones, whether it be with too much of one channel over the other. Besides the sound being the top priority that I was looking at, I wasn't so much worried about that. I was also worried about how the stylistic choices of designing this headset was exactly going to impact the sound and also the wearability of the headset over time. You got fabric encased cups around the ears, and compared to how they look like here with the G430s, you can tell that they kind of cut a few little design aesthetics out of the way as opposed to what you find here on the Logitech G433. One decent example is exactly the cup itself. You can see right here that it's kind of like on a hinge, and it's often moving around, and it's mostly made out of plastic. Now, that's not to say that it's not made out of plastic here, but not only are the little hinges here that are holding the cups in place with the headband a little bit tighter, not only keeping it very sturdy and firm and in its place whenever you're moving them about, but also no noise. You can hear these things from a mile away. You hear that? Hold on, let me test it out. Yeah. Very traditional gaming headset there. Whereas these, I remember taking them out of the box, putting them on my head, and I barely heard anything. Now, of course, this is after only about a week or so of trying them out. That's not to say that maybe down the line there'll be some basic wear and tear, and eventually these hinges here, whether it be the ones that are holding the cups or the ones that allow for that 90-degree swivel, that is very familiar to the ones that you find here on the G433, or the G430, I'm sorry, to make it a little more comfortable to put them around your neck and then just kind of move them out of the way and set them to rest here on your chest, is still there. But doing that very frequently could eventually bring back that squeaking noise that I was mentioning earlier of the G430s. Besides that, you got your traditional aesthetics, whereas you got the little fabric inside of the headset. You can still find that on previous headsets as well as the little spongy piece underneath the headband for comfortability on top of the head and make sure that you're headache free as best as possible. And of course, you can always adjust the band of the headset to fit your head however you so choose. The only difference, however, is that, like I mentioned, the cups themselves are slightly redesigned. From a distance, they could almost be seen as Beats headphones, not only because they got their nifty little logo there on the side etched into the fabric, but they also cut out a little bit of the clutter happening around this area here, kind of forming like a little sliced off cup. And that does look pretty cool, especially when you look at the threaded portion of the cup here. It makes it look kind of sexy, kind of sophisticated in a sense, where this is your sophisticated gaming headset that you're after. From a distance, it looks like just the traditional pads that come with the headset, but this is actually the alternate pads that come in the accessory box and not the ones that come by default. Here, as I covered in my unboxing, Logitech went ahead and threw in a second pair of pads. Now, these aren't exactly the secondary ones. The secondary ones are actually on the headset, because recently I was actually on a gaming binge to finish up the story mode for Dragon Ball FighterZ, and I was playing for a copious amount of time, and because of that, I wanted to feel a little bit more comfortable, and that's ideally what these pads are for. They're made out of a different fabric than you're kind of used to with the other Logitech headphones, because this fabric doesn't breathe as much as these do, because these have the little punctures inside to allow air to kind of filtrate in between So those are ideal for not only breathing, but also keeping your ears refreshed as much as possible. And also, in the event that you do use this headset to go out and listen to music, ideally when you're working out or you're jogging or anything like this, these pads are going to help out with the breathing patterns and keep you from sweating as much as possible. Whereas these will probably keep you a little warm because of the fabric, but at the same time they're spongier and they're much more cushionier than these are. So these are ideally for the ones that you want to use during long gaming sessions, whereas these are the ones that you want to do for whenever you're using the headset for recreational use. And it could be a little lazy inducing to want to switch these out. It's not actually that big of a deal. You just got to tug on them a little bit and pull out the little white plastic and just slide them off the side of the cup, and then you end up with something like this, which is dangerous because you don't want to risk exposing the speaker itself, as you can see right there, which of course I'm not going to get into the minutia of what the components are inside, but just be rest assured that it provides some really great audio. But all you got to do is just take that little white rail on the inside and just kind of line it up with the groove or the little ridge that is between the speaker itself and then the fabric softened cup right there. It does get a little complicated by the little ports and jacks you got at the bottom, which I'll get to in a second. The only downside though is that sometimes if you don't put it right 100%, it could look a little lofty. It could look a little off, like yeah, you were rearranging these things from one side to another, and maybe the patterns are not going to fully line up, so that makes it look a little unsexy, a little less sexy than it was before. But there you go. Now I have one pad with the cushiony material there, and then one with the more air breathable one, as you can tell. And they're going to make for two different feeling experiences at the very least. Now, unless you haven't exactly been doing your research as of late, no offense, you may have been under the impression that these are wireless headsets because it doesn't come with a wire, but these are a wired gaming headset. It's just that this time around, Logitech decided to not actually make the cable a necessity to be attached, but you are going to need it later on when you want to hear things. And that's because they threw in a slew of accessories to not only give it a slightly slicker look, but also to make it accessible for you to use several different devices to listen to your audio content. The first cable that I'm going to cover here is pretty much the basic one that you're probably going to require and need to play anything that's video game related, and that is the traditional 3.5mm jack cable. It's a very lengthy cable. It's not as long as the one for the G430s, because I will admit that one was a bit of a fucking nightmare, as you can tell. And also, this is a significant improvement because not only is it just a tad shorter, it's still a little bit long, especially when you take it out in public and you want to go to the gym. You have to take a really hefty chunk of this cable and put it away in your pocket, but at least this time around they threw in this little clip, so if you do want to shorten it a little bit, not actually cut it, but just kind of tighten it up and tuck it away, you can do so. Well, I'm just a little lazy to do so. But this time around, instead of being that really obvious neon blue, they colored it in black. It's just a threaded black with fabric wrapped around the wires, just like before. A lot of people online, I noticed, wanted this to be red to kind of match with the headset, but I actually prefer it to be black because it just blends in with several other traditional cables, especially when I have this attached to my PS4 and I end up filming a video and I don't have to worry about it sticking out like a sore thumb, unlike with the G430s when I have the fucking blue cable coming out of the side here, and I'm like, oh, that is distracting. As subtle as it is, it's going to be distracting. Don't have to worry about this with this cable. Furthermore, they threw in little details to just make this really, really cool of a cable. For one, each of these ends here that house the 3.5mm plug have a little bit of a grip texture to them. Not so much this one, because this is actually the end that goes into your headset via the bottom port, which is pretty much where any of the cables really go. So you could listen to your audio, and now you have a wired gaming headset. But furthermore, this other end has a really nice thick grip to it, grip texture, that makes it really comfortable to plug into things. On top of that, it doesn't look like the the fabric is as thin as the other one is, so hopefully that wear and tear that ended up undoing my headset and pretty much busting it up and not letting me listen to anything won't happen, at least not for anytime soon. Then we get our little module here, which is in the form of like a very thick black pill that we got right here, and this is pretty much where our mic and volume controls are at. Not only do we have a nice little clip here so that you can put it on your person, with of course the very proud Logitech G etched right there on the side of the clip, which is pretty neat. But then on the other side, you got the microphone button that allows you to switch your microphone on and off. Pretty traditional function, but what's cool is of course the design this time around. They added a little grip texture to that button, so it makes it really nice and firm to flip that switch on and off, unlike the other one. So little things like this, they continuously improved over the last gaming headset, and those little things kind of pile up to make a really satisfying experience, but not as satisfying as the volume notch or the volume wheel here on this module, which is pretty damn satisfying. I'm gonna get an orgasm out of this damn thing. But the wheel itself is made out of this really thick rubber, and of course it's got that grip texture. Not only that, but it also has an awful lot of throw within it, which means that it rotates an awful lot before stopping at either extreme. So turning it really, really low or really, really up, there's an awful lot of range there to make the volume be really, really loud or really, really soft. And then turning the wheel itself, it has a little bit of resistance to it, so it never feels loose, unless you obviously wear and tear this. But from the onset, this is a really satisfying way to kind of turn your volume up and down, and it gives it that quality feel to the overall cable. The next two accessories that came with the Logitech G433, I'm going to go over really, really quick because there was really not much to them except that they provide a specific function. The first one is the USB adapter. You pretty much take your 3.5mm cable, or actually at this point really any 3.5mm cable because it's somewhat universal, and basically you just take the plug, you put it in here, and now you got yourself an input for USB. So you can plug this into pretty much anything that takes USB, ideally the PC, and pretty much any function that comes out of this headset, whether it be to listen to audio or to give audio out with the microphone, happens with just one cable by using this adapter. And of course this is also functional with the USB inputs on consoles such as the PS4 and Xbox One. I didn't test it out with the Xbox One, but I did test it out with the PS4. And it does work. You just plug this into the front and immediately it recognizes the headset, and I was able to not only listen to the game audio but also be able to record my voice with the broadcasting options. The other cable that serves pretty much just a function, ideally, is the splitter here, the 3.5mm splitter, and that's pretty much what it does. You plug in the 3.5mm there, and it splits up your two functions into two separate cables, the one for the mic and then the one for the audio. And this is pretty much for people who have either a desktop or laptop that has two separate jacks for the headphones and for the mic, as well as people who have like certain adapters where they can plug these two in and kind of increase or amplify, especially amplifiers, where they're able to take their basic surround sound audio and then bump it up to 7.1, or they make it even better, or they have certain drivers, or they have certain things that only their PC will recognize. This is mainly for that. What's kind of cool is that they made the plastic here a little wider, so you don't have to worry about damaging the plastic because they already made this end of the plastic just a little wider than this one is. So splitting it up like so, not a problem. And then the last cable, not the last accessory, but the last cable is going to be what they call the mobile cable. This is mainly for use with any kind of mobile device, whether it be a cell phone or even a tablet. It's, I believe, just a shred shorter. Actually, never mind. I think it's on par with the 3.5mm cable. But you'll notice that it does not have any kind of fabric surrounding the cable. This is just your basic rubber that encloses it. And the little module here is way, way smaller. And that's because this is for usage with your phone when you're either listening to podcasts, music, or even taking calls. You just plug it in like so, like you did with the other one. You plug into your other device. And then with this module, you have a button on one side with, once again, that textured grip on there, which is pretty cool. But this time, that controls your microphone, so when you press it, you can talk. on the other side. There's a little hole, and that's your microphone. But if you're just listening to music or podcasts, pressing the button will pause it, and then pressing it again will resume it. Basic function. The only thing I don't advise is to use this cable for anything else besides mobile, because it recognizes mobile devices very easily. I tried it out with my Codec Extra phone, and it functions just fine. But when I tried it with my Nintendo Switch, the audio, ugh. Oh my god, David, just get to the microphone demo, please. I'm pretty sure that's the majority of you are thinking right now, because that's primarily why you look up gaming headset reviews. Is that not only you can check out how they look, how they feel, but also how they sound through the microphone. Hearing the actual headset themselves, that's only something that's a little bit more on the subjective side. It's only when you really listen for yourself that you make up your mind saying, oh yeah, these sound great, because these are just as good as a pair of Beats. And those things are fucking $200, and I'm just fine with spending $80 to $100 for just these right here. But the microphone is the one that you can objectively listen to within a review. Here it is. This is the boom mic that Logitech throws in for the G433. Detachable, as you can tell, with a 3.5mm jack on one end. And the entire microphone itself is kind of covered in this very bendy rubber. In fact, it's very flexible so that you're able to maneuver it and place it how you please. But the only part that isn't is the end with the actual microphone components, which you have right there with the nice little foamy bits, as well as a side here with a little hole designed to cancel out noise as best as possible. And of course, we are dealing with a gaming headset, so we can't exactly expect the noise canceling to be 100%. Or can we? Let's go ahead and test it out. So obviously, that's what this little hole here is designed for you to simply plug in the 3.5mm boom mic, give it a really good push in, because sometimes I feel like I've had instances where I plugged it in and it didn't clip in all the way through. So now that's not to say that it's loose or cheap feeling, but you have to put it in a certain way that it grabs it 100%. And there you go. So let's put on the headset and demonstrate the headset mic audio right now.
Ka-chow! Alright, so right now you are currently listening to the Logitech G433 microphone audio. As you can see right here, I have Audacity currently recording my voice with the waveforms and the peak balance right there. I have it adjusted to 0.68. I'm imagining that's decibels, but I could be wrong. Anyways, so far you can tell that the quality for the microphone from the gaming headset, the G433s, is obviously not going to be the absolute best. It's not exactly what you were hearing earlier in the review with the Blue Snowball Ice microphone, such as this one, because you are paying a little bit more for that quality audio. This is essentially just to get your voice to be heard in chat, or if you want to do something really, really quick and off the cuff with the gaming headset. In fact, I'm thinking about doing some kind of video series where it's just this. That way I don't have to set up my mic, set up everything. I just strap this thing on and I'm ready to go. Mainly because the majority of the day I have this thing on, whether it be I'm playing video games or I'm listening to music or I'm watching videos or I'm doing some kind of editing task, I'm using this. But what's kind of neat is that right now there is a little bit of a hiss happening in the background that you sometimes hear with the majority of gaming headset microphones. But I'm confident that when you hear this in the review, that hissing's not going to be there. And that's because this noise canceling section of the mic is actually doing its job in canceling out as much of the background noise as possible and trying to isolate my voice as best as possible. I know this because I have tested this microphone a couple times now and played back the audio through Audacity, and I was pleasantly surprised by how clear, sure, not top quality, but very, very clear and audible my voice is. I'd say that this is a very decent microphone. It's obviously not one of the best, but you can only do so much with a gaming headset. And so far, I feel very comfortable with something like this. The only thing that I'm worried about, though, is that I will admit that something like the G430s did have the gaming headset attached, but you can always just fold it down and fold it back up. With this one, it's kind of stuck in place as you see here, so if you're not gaming, you're going to have to unplug it. And for some people, believe it or not, are going to find the plugging in and plugging out of the microphone somewhat tedious. So if you're one of those people, I ain't gonna judge, but I feel like you should probably know that ahead of time before you purchase the headset, thinking that you're easily gonna be able to do this. Yeah, that's not attractive. You're gonna have to unplug this if you want to deal with it, which we're gonna do right now and get back to the review.
Alright, back to our regularly scheduled program. Actually, we can go ahead and detach this, put this down, and wrap up the review. So, despite some minor inconveniences, you could tell that I'm actually rather taken with the Logitech G433, and it's not just because it's Logitech, it's actually because Logitech, from this headset, I can tell they looked back at some of the things that were legit problems with the G430 and kind of improved upon them, and also looked at some things that didn't need improving and decided to act upon them and actually fix some of them and actually make them a little bit better, whether it be some cosmetic choices with the fabric around the cuffs or whether it be the little dials here that I'm very infatuated with. But of course, it's also the improvement along the microphone, the drivers within the headset still maintaining that quality audio, and also allowing very free form connectivity with the various accessories that I decided to throw in. And it's funny because out of all the accessories, my favorite would have to be the carrying case, because that makes it a little bit more feasible for me to travel around with this headset. You don't know how many times I would just take my headset and just throw it into my backpack, or just have it kind of lingering around with the wires all exposed whenever I would go to the gym. Now I have this little pouch, and all I have to do is just prop it in there, zip it up, and now I have this like giant thing that doesn't have cables wiggling all about. Now, even though I did just compliment them for the connectivity, free-flowing connectivity with all of the accessories, that also led to a subsequent problem that they might have overlooked, trying to make this accessible for various other people, especially for people who just want to get a headset to listen to music. Because even though this is advertised as a gaming headset, I've seen some images, primarily on the back of the box, that show just a random dude listening to music without the microphone and without any extra doodads, and just conveniently going around listening to his audio. And that's because they are trying to kind of appease to several different markets, not just the gaming one, but also give it that look like, hey, this could be like your next alternative to the Beats headphones. And in doing so, they overlooked one little thing that I don't know if many people are gonna encounter with their gaming duties, or better yet, their streaming duties. But I did find it very convoluted and very complicated to try to get this headset to really feel like something that I can kind of fall back on when doing Let's Plays, or hopefully in the future Twitch streams, with this microphone that is part of the entire headset. Because as of now, I do Let's Plays with listening to the game audio through here, and then of course this microphone that you see here with the blue Snowball Ice microphone that you're actually hearing through for this review is what I use to record my voice when doing those Let's Plays. But what if I wanted to just use this? Like I said, make it a little bit more convenient for myself to strap on the headset and use this microphone. That's where I ran into a shit ton of problems, because I tried so many different combinations of trying to use the splitter, trying to use the USB adapter with either my PC or my PS4, vice versa. So many different combinations. I don't even want to get into the rigmarole of that entire way of how I tried to make this possible. But one thing would happen after another. Either I would get audio from my headset as well as my microphone, but the actual game audio would not be captured by the Elgato HD60. Or the Elgato would get the sound, would get my audio from the microphone, but I would not be able to listen to the audio from the PS4. Or any of the other things where I would get all three audios, but the audio would be shitty. There's like this little happening in the background.
Testing 1, 2, 3. I choose Vegeta, Yamcha,
and I don't know what it is, because I'm using the splitter, or I'm trying to use the USB along with the splitter, and certain things just did not combine. So unless I come up with a very different solution with various other components, it does become a little complex if I want to be able to use this for my streams. Of course, later on down the line, if I were to get some better internet and be able to use the Twitch apps or the YouTube apps within the PS4 itself, that's a whole nother story. That's something that I will admit I have not tested out. But if I wanted to do something a little bit more off the cuff with my computer, with the Elgato, I have to stick with this microphone that I'm using right now for the review, and not so much this, because this works in tangent with the headset, and the headset needs to be recognized by all of these devices, whether it be the PS4 or the computer, and it's almost like it's one or the other. But again, that's for a market that is very involved with Twitch, with YouTube, and wanted to do gameplay videos. But if you're not exactly in that market, then I'd say that this is arguably one of the better headsets that you can kind of go out there, especially if you're very much devoted to Logitech like I am, but you're looking for little improvements on the past headsets while at the same time looking for a way to make things just a little bit more convenient outside of the gaming sphere and be able to like listen to music, listen to podcasts, stuff like that, and also make it just a little bit easier upon yourself to deal with the cables and all that stuff. And Logitech looked out for you. They looked out for you in the form of the G433. I will admit that because of the connectivity issues that I was mentioning just a few seconds ago, I think that $100 flat is asking for just a little much. I think I would have been much more comfortable with this sitting at around 80. I think 80 would have been a very perfect rounded number for the G433s. But it's not exactly going to break your bank, and $100 won't give you into like buyer's remorse. I feel like the longevity of these headsets, as long as you don't deal any maximum damage or wear and tear to the cables, like I unfortunately did it with the G430s, you'll be all set. And you'll be getting one of the better experiences audibly from your gaming experiences. And that is why I'm going to be giving the Logitech G433 gaming headset a very high, enthusiastic, and very recommendable 8 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments below. Are you guys enticed enough to purchase these headsets or this headphone? I can't get my plurals right. But does this look enticing to you? Do you think that this is a good step in the right direction for Logitech? Or do you think that there's some improvement to be found in the wireless headsets? Some people are kind of for wireless because they love the free roam without having to deal with wires, tripping over wires, or anything like that. But of course, other people are very skeptical, much like me, or just a little skeptical about there being some latency or lag issues with the wireless because you're dealing with signals and transmissions. You want something a little bit more concrete. Please post your insights in the comments below. Make sure you support this video by hitting the like and share button. And of course, do not forget to check out my channel and subscribe for more tech reviews, show reviews, movie reviews, and of course, game reviews coming very soon. Until next time, guys, see you all later. This debuted back in 2003 when it was becoming really hot with the whole intellectual property of not just Spider-Man, but pretty much anything that's Marvel related for a very key demographic centered around young teens. And what better network to put this thing on than on the network that is very much aimed at young teens, MTV.
Best dressed? Please, the girls got hips like snack trays.